We want to learn, how did you come across junk removal and what were you doing before junk removal?
So I owned a gutter cleaning company for 20 years, and I was doing that. And then I worked as a server at the most popular restaurant in town. It was one of the top five barbecue places in the country. So I was always working, 12, 14 hours a day. Not a big deal. My mom in 2018 was diagnosed with T cell lymphoma, which is stage four cancer. It was unfortunately at a 5% cure rate. If you had B cell lymphoma, it was 95% curable. So I knew that it wasn't going to last very long and that I had to clean out her house. So I actually called 1-800 Got Junk. They came over, gave me an estimate, and I was just like, "You're out of your fucking mind. There is no way I'm paying that." And I
Just out
had
of
guys.
curiosity, what was the estimate that they gave you?
I think it was like $7,600 or something. It was over 7 grand. I mean, this was 6, 7 years ago, so I don't want to say the exact number, but I want to say it was 47, 4,800, something like that.
So how long have you been in the game doing junk
So
removal?
yeah, so my mom. I'll go back to that real quick. My mom got diagnosed in 2018. I told my wife in April of 18 that we should start a junk removal company. I called them. They were ridiculous. I called three other companies. They never called me back. And I said, we can do this. And we had 2,500 gutter cleaning customers a year. So we already had realtors, investors, and everything like that. So I told my wife, I was like, we should start this. And she was like, no. And for 6 months, she said no. And then one day I was just like, we're going to do a big gutter cleaning job. We won't be back till 4. We're leaving early. Okay.
Hmm.
So she called me around 4 o'clock and she was like, what time you think you'll be home? And I was like, like 11, 12 o'clock. And she's like, what are you talking about? And I was like, well, I'm in Philadelphia and I just bought the truck. And she's like, no, you didn't. I was like, yeah, kind of did. Chris is with me. We'll be back in about 6 hours. And that's how I started it. My first pickup was September 12th, 2018.
So let
And
me
it's,
let me ask you this. So you would now done with the gutters, or you're just, this is a new service you're adding on?
yeah, so I started with gutter cleaning and I always kept that business because, we were making six figures doing that. So I always kept that business as kind of like the cash flow to fund this. So I was at an advantage over a lot of the newer people because I had money coming in. And because I was serving at night, we always made, enough money that I could have a lot of fuck off money and investment money and stuff like that. So that's kind of how that worked. And then, in 2022, it got to the point where I couldn't run both of them. And I went to my guys and I said, there's three options. I close it and you come work in junk removal, which they do not want to do. I said, I sell it to someone who may or may not keep you. They're likely going to fire you, or I'll sell you the company. And they opted to buy it. So I sold that company for over six figures to them. And then now they still do it 3 years later.
Wow. Okay. Now,
Yeah.
when you first started off and you went and got the truck, what truck did you start off with?
I actually went to TA Trucks in Allentown, Pennsylvania, and I will tell you, Tom, if you're listening to this, you literally build the absolute shittiest fucking trucks. I'm no one buy a truck from TA Trucks. That guy is a piece of shit. Anyway, so I went down there
Let me
and
just
bought
ask
a.
you. So, is TA Trucks? Do they have anything to do with junk removal, or this was just somebody local around your area?
No, he builds junk trucks. That's what his main thing is. He'll take used chassis and put bodies on them, or he'll take new
Hmm.
bodies or new chassis and put bodies on them. But he sells new trucks, and he never primed the body. I've so far on those trucks, I just spent $1,800 on one to re-weld half of the brakes. I have another one where the door's fallen off. The paint flaked off in 8 months because he never primed the body. I've replaced the wiring on every truck on the body. I've replaced both pumps. I've replaced both motors. Every switch, the tarp arms broke off the side because he uses such thin metal. And the trucks that he builds are meant for the south, not the north. So
Russ, have you ever owned a dump trailer or a trailer
no,
for junk removal?
never. I this is how I look at this, right? So my goals were never to be an owner operator. My goals when I started this, I said maybe I can make $10,000 a month. Like that was my original goal. And I said, if I can do that with gutter cleaning, then I'd be over 350 grand a year. That'd be great because my profit margins were like 70% on gutters and 50% on junk. So I mean, we were doing well. And this took off. I was not expecting this at all. So yeah, that was a mistake.
So when you first started this business, did you jump like right into like leads, or how did you start to get your name out there?
So I started in September and I knew I wasn't going to be able to do much because October and November were my busiest months with gutter cleaning. So I didn't start out with advertising on Google and all that stuff. I had the website made. We posted on Craigslist a lot. I was usually 2 to 3 times on Craigslist. I reached out to every real estate investor, every real estate agent that we used, and I was like, "Listen, we started this new service." They had been with me for years doing all their properties, so it was a natural fit. They knew that I was a good service business. So that's how that started. And then in January of 19, I started Google Ads. And I think one thing that people don't understand is if you're in a small market, you can have a smaller budget. But when you're in a bigger market, if you want to even attempt to compete, you have to spend money on ads. So my first year total advertising ad spend was $50,000 on Google. I started with $4,000 a month. Again,
Okay,
I'm
now
at
hold on. Let me break into this. So you did them yourself? You
no.
started. Okay, so
No.
who helped you out with Google Ads and all?
Yeah, so I was one of JRA's very first customers, and I have been with JRA now for 6 years in Rochester. I do use somebody else in Florida. I use Steve Nunnally in Florida. He's very good too. Either one of those guys are great, but Shane and Lee have always been good to me, and I am a very loyal person to people who take care of me. I will not leave them. So it doesn't matter who comes at me and I've been offered to have them do it for free so that I would just push their name, and I just won't do it. Like you're talking about $800 to $900 a month that someone was going to give me for free just for me to be able to push their name, and I said no. I don't need the money. I don't want the money, and I'm more loyal to the people that have taken care of me, and they've been great to me the whole time. So I have nothing bad to say against JRA. They're very good at what they do, but everybody else has their own their own people they like. So
Okay, so now you made the decision to go with Google Ads. What
yep.
made you make that decision? Was it that business wasn't, you weren't picking up more organic business anymore? Were you maxed out with organic leads and all?
No, it was more. I'm one of those guys that look to the people who are doing it, and I want to see what they're doing, and I'm obsessed about it. Like I stalked those franchises for months before I even started it. I used to watch their online booking scheduling. So Got Junk got away from it, but Kevin Hess will probably know about this. They used to have their schedule that you could click online and which hours you wanted to, pick and what appointments they had. And when I first started with them, they were booked 2, 3 days out, and within a year they were booking the same day. So it was one of those things that I watched what they did and I kind of mimicked it. It's the same way that I look at most things. If I'm going to start a business, I want to watch what the people who did it, what are they doing? Because if they're doing it, especially a franchise, it works. So if I'm watching someone do Google ads and it's the biggest franchises in the country, then I know I should probably do Google ads too. So it was just kind of one of those things where I watched what they did and I just kind of replicated it. Um,
So
Now,
did you
sorry,
go ahead, Paul? Go ahead.
how long was it that, when you first got in there, what was your budget like at the beginning with the Google Ads, and what was like Google Ads back then? Was it a lot cheaper? Was it like the popular thing for everybody to do?
Yeah, there was no Google guaranteed. So the only way that you could get on Google at the top was ads. Now, I also did Angie's List, and I know a lot of people shit on Angie's List. I don't like them right now, but back, 7 years ago, you could do well. I would spend $1,000 on Angie's List and get 6 to 7 thousand back in revenue, and then I was spending $3,000 on Google, and I was getting back about 5 to 6x that. And that's because at the time when I started, Got Junk was the only one here. I didn't have any other franchises here. I was fortunate that I got into it when I did. It was pre-COVID. It was a year before COVID. So it gave me a year to learn. And then when COVID happened and everybody just overnight became rich and decided that they were going to live like Elon Musk and just spend money and buy houses and shit, it was a huge benefit to us. And if you ever look at like the way that most of the companies grew, they grew during COVID, because you were an essential business. No one else could work. Everybody had to sit there and clean out their houses. And then Zoom happened. And then what happened after that? you know, as soon as Zoom happened, you turned around and lost all of the offices. You know what I mean? Oh, shut up, Ricardo. I don't even want to talk to you. Just shut the fuck up,
So,
Ricardo. Anyway.
so Russ, when you first started, did you have a big crew? Was it you by
No.
yourself or?
So the way that it worked out, and ironically, when I started my gutter cleaning company, my best friend I didn't even know him at the time. We worked in a restaurant together, and I just happened to be like, hey man, you want to come help me hang a gutter? He was like, yeah, sure, fuck it, I'll do it. So I said, all right, cool. And he was my first gutter cleaning employee. And then I hired his brother and his brother's best friend, and they stuck with me for 7 years. And they're all way more successful than I am. And then he was working for a company, and he lost his job about 2 weeks before I started. So I was like, well, fuck it, just come work with me. So he actually helped me start my junk removal company. I don't know if John Amico's in here, but he's my best friend, and he's been my best friend for 20 years, and I love that guy. And so he helped me. Plus, I had my gutter cleaning guys. If I ever had to have a big job, I could just pull them over and help. So I had, 4 gutter cleaning guys plus my best friend and me. So I started with 6 people that I could get to if I needed it. So again, I was fortunate because I came from a service business and I already had employees that I could move around. Whereas new people, they're not going to have that. It's going to be very hard to replicate what I did, only because I was fortunate enough to have, a 6-figure income. And then I was fortunate enough to have the guys that if I had a 8-truck job, I could do it,
Now,
versus
when you got into that Google ads and all, how long did it take to get that 5 to 6x return? Was that like pretty instant, or was it like, 4 or 5 months in before you
No.
figured out everything?
No. So they, in a small market, Google ads works real well because your competition's low. If you're talking like LA or Missouri and you got 15 other people up there, then it just becomes who has the bigger balls and the bigger pockets, JT, you're right there, brother. So if you have a lot of money, you can buy yourself to the ads, and I've known people that have had people try to challenge the top spot on Google ads, and they just went ahead and just made it $150 a click, and you're done. You have no shot. You will never show up. You know what I mean? And that's more of a lesson being taught to you. Like, you want to try to compete with us and you want to shit talk us? Well, no problem. I'll just go ahead and make it a $10,000 a month budget, and you're never going to show up.
Until
I'll
you
just
can't
outbid you
afford
every
to
time.
pay in. Yep.
And then you burn their budget out because they're trying to compete with you. And then what happens is now they're gone. Now they drop down to $40 and they still don't show up because you're at 90, so it's, but when it started out, the first month you have no reviews. So you're really at a disadvantage. So when I was new, I always had to be a lot cheaper than Got Junk. Like, I was $150 a truck cheaper than them because I have no reviews. No one's going to call me over them. They've got 3,000 reviews. I got 0. So you can't, one thing that, I heard somebody in the say something about reviews don't matter, or you don't need a lot of reviews. And
Isn't that that's one of the most important criteria for getting ranked, right?
well, I mean, it helps with your GMB and ranking, but the bigger issue is let's say that I'm in your market, Paul, right?
Yep.
And you show up, or I show up, you've got 1,500 reviews and I've got none, right? And Yee calls and says, I need some junk removal. And he looks and he sees me with 0 and you with 1,500. Who the fuck is he going to call? Right. So you're not even going to get the calls for free on GMB because you have no reviews. You have nothing to stand on. The higher the reviews you have, the more you can charge. So if you have 1,200 people who have reviewed you and said that he's professional, he shows up, he's affordable, and someone goes and looks and goes, oh shit, 97 people of these 1,200 said he's affordable. He's pretty good. Now he turns and looks at someone with 50 reviews. Well, who are they going to call? Right. So, your reviews do matter. The higher the reviews, the more leverage you have to charge pricing. The lower reviews, you're fucked because you have to lowball it in order to get a review,
Let me ask you, are you a review guy? And if so, what is your process to get the reviews?
Yeah, so we've changed it over the years. When we first started, I'm never the owner on a job unless, like, now it's like the realtors know me or investors, then yeah. But even if it's like a customer out of the wall, I'm never the owner on a job. And the reason is because some people think that because you're the owner, you can negotiate the price better. And if I'm an employee, they're not going to argue with the employee as much because there's procedures and rules and there's a price list that they have to go by and all that shit. So I was never the owner. And it was just, it's one of those things, like when you do it, I used to tell everybody, look, my boss is running a contest. And basically what it is if you leave a review, he doesn't care if it's good or bad. He wants to know if we suck. He wants to know if we're doing good. All you have to do is leave a review. And for every review I get a 12 pack of beer on Friday. Now, I got to tell you, I almost didn't make it to work on Monday because I had 12 packs of beer in the last 3 days, but I made it anyway. It's a joke, right? But anybody who you're doing a job for wants to help you get on the boss. You know what I mean? I know Got Junk here gives $25 off their price every time they leave a review. And my shitty ass people here are actually doing it for the husband and the wife. So if the husband leaves one and the wife leaves one on the same job, they get $50 off. And if you ever go to their reviews, you'll see the same last name on the same day, both saying the same thing. So it's a slick way to do it, but a lot of people have done it that way. But I always said, hey, we're having a contest. Then I got into Chirp, which is a automatic texting app. And what would happen is as soon as the job was done, it would automatically text them the review link that said, hey, how you doing? How did we do? Please leave a review, right? And more people would do that because it was a text message. The other thing that I did when I started was I used to tell people, hey, do you mind if I just text you my link and you can leave a review? Yeah, no problem. And you just do it from your phone. And thanks, Denise, you kick ass. You just copy it and paste it and then text it to them yourself. You don't need any specific one to do it. So you can do that. But now what we use are the Google Tap cards.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So I know Kevin Hess has got some, Adam's got some in the chats. There's a bunch of people that have these, and these are really easy. All you do is you just say, hey, listen, how did we do? I actually wrote a script out for someone. I think it was Adam. And basically it was like, hey, how did we do? Hopefully we exceeded all your expectations. You did. Oh, that's perfect. Would you mind? My boss is having a review contest. Would you mind leaving us a review, good or bad? Doesn't really matter. It takes 1 second. If you have your cell phone, I can literally just take this card and tap your phone and it'll take you 3 seconds. Oh, I'll do that. Okay, perfect. What I'll do is I'll tap your phone. I'm going to go finish the receipt or the invoice up and I'll be right back. Boop, tap the card, go finish it. They're doing it right on site because they have to see you one more time because you have to bring them the invoice or you have to text them the invoice, right? So they're more likely to leave the reviews on site than they are to ever get a text or an email.
And Denise says, Ricardo says reviews don't matter. Laughing out loud.
Yeah, well, $45 fridges will tell you that.